Welcome to this episode of the Willingdon on Mission podcast. My name is John, one of the pastors at Willingdon, and today we have the great joy of hearing from Craig and Sophie Palmer. Hi, Craig and Sophie.
Hello.
Hello.
So this is the first episode of 4 episodes that we'll hear from Craig and Sophie. They're the missionaries of the month this month, and for this first episode, I just want us to have sort of a get to know you conversation. So can you guys tell me just a little bit about yourself, your life journey, faith journey, stage of life, that sort of thing?
Sure. Yeah, so I was born and raised for the most part in the Vancouver area. My parents were actually missionaries in Russia for much of my childhood. So this definitely exposed me to missions from an early age and helped me, I think, be more globally minded. And I remember first responding to Jesus's call to surrender to him at 5 years old. And I was also quite heavily involved in church growing up. And back in Vancouver, we attended Broadway Church, and my time in the youth and young adults there were pretty instrumental in growing my faith. Um, and yeah, so through the years, Jesus has always been teaching me and reminding me to trust in him. He's helped me overcome some dark and confusing times, and I find that the more time I spend in his word, the more peace and joy I feel overall. And even when I drift, Jesus has always been patiently nudging me back to him.
Mhm.
Thank you. Sophie, give us a little glimpse.
Yeah. I was born in a small ranching town in Alberta and moved to the metropolis of Chilliwack at age 11, where I was super fortunate that some of my classmates had invited me to youth group. And I had no idea about youth. All I knew was that the cool kids went. I was far from cool, so I was going. And I was really confused when I showed up and they're singing and there's talking about being part of one body, but there was games and snacks and friends, so I kept going and ultimately gave my life to Jesus around age 14. And um, yeah, God has just been super faithful and patient with me, um, showing up in the mundane ways and in miraculous ways. Um, and yeah, it was great chatting this morning kind of about what our journeys have been and seeing how God has delivered me through some very trying times in my life. Um, and he's just provided healing beyond what I could ever ask for.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
How long have the two of you been married?
We've been married since 2017,
Okay.
and but we met in 2015 at Broadway and got connected through a friend over some shared interests in linguistics. Uh, as I was doing my linguistics degree, and Craig was self-studying linguistics to an annoyingly similar degree without having to pay for classes. Um, yeah, and now we have a 3-year-old daughter, and we're expecting a baby boy in May.
Awesome. Awesome. So you mentioned linguistics already, Sophie. But now Craig actually has a role in sort of linguistics, and you're doing something different. I'm gonna ask you about that in a minute. But Craig, could you tell us about you've got a role with Wycliffe Bible Translators and or I forget, maybe it's called Wycliffe Canada or something. But anyway, what do you do? Tell us about your role.
Sure. Yeah. So I work for Wycliffe Bible Translators of Canada.
Okay, I almost got it.
Um, Specifically, I use like a software tool. So we're using technology, and it's a computer-aided translation tool called TBTA for the Bible Translator's Assistant. And this tool helps create a quality draft of scripture directly into other languages. And so I work with kind of specific languages. The main one I work with right now is called Kichuka. It's a language spoken in central Kenya. But I'm also doing some work in Swahili, and I'll be branching off into other related languages as well. But in my work, I basically analyze the language's grammar and encode it into the computer, and then it can produce its draft. And I work with a mother tongue translator to because obviously I don't speak the language. So he helps me kind of give a like edit and find the grammatical mistakes so we can keep making the software and the rules I put in better. And so ultimately, the idea is this tool saves the translation team from the tedious work of kind of drafting it by hand. And then they can spend their time and energy making it sound better and more natural. And so, with the help of this tool and similar technology, translating the Bible could save it could save years of labor in that. And so, yeah, we're excited to see more and more communities that don't have the Bible receive it quicker.
That's awesome. So that's a sounds like a role that's a neat combination of linguistics interest, and you've got some like computer science technical interest as well. So it's an
Yes,
interesting
Yeah.
absolutely.
combination. Yeah. Now you're based here, right? In Vancouver area.
Correct. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can work remotely.
Work remotely, and then occasionally you've had the opportunity to travel a little bit.
Yeah, I've taken 2 trips out to Kenya. One we
Yeah.
went as a family, which was pretty cool, and the
Yeah.
other I got to visit the town where they speak Kichuka, the
Okay.
town of Chuka, and so I got to meet some of the people there and see the translation team, and that was a really neat experience.
Neat. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, Sophie, first of all, which ranching town in Alberta?
Bowden,
Bowden. Okay. Yeah,
just off the
nice.
highway
Yeah.
near Olds.
So I grew up in Carstairs, um,
Okay,
not so far away from
not so far away.
Bowden or
There we
Olds.
go.
Yeah, yeah. So my question for you, Sophie, is not related to where you grew up. What do you do? How do you spend your days?
I work part-time as a speech language pathologist at the BC Centre for Ability, where I have a couple roles. So I have the privilege of helping babies and young children transition home from the hospital who have feeding difficulties and help them get the supports they need to enjoy eating and eat safely. And also, I recently started doing autism assessments for preschoolers, which has been super interesting. Um, yeah, outside of work, try to have hobbies, but a lot of it is our daughter's hobbies and playing with her. I like baking and trying to get outside, and also super thankful that I get to attend the Moms Connect ministry at Willingdon, as well as a life group that we go to as a family.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so that has given us just a little overview of who you guys are. And that brings us to the end of this first episode. So for those of you who are watching, next or in subsequent episodes, we're going to talk about Bible translation and why that's important and kind of the scope and scale of what's going on around the world and that sort of thing. So stay tuned, catch the other episodes. Thank you for watching, and thanks, Craig and Sophie, for sharing a little bit about your life.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.